guys, welcome back to SMB Designs. We are getting ready to start a new book of the Bible for our reading. We're going to start with the book of 1st John, and then we'll go to 2nd and 3rd John to get those. They're really short little books, and we need to get those done. So I'm going to read you the information in the book in the front of my Cultural Studies Bible. That's going to give you information about their time, their background, their genre, authorship, all of that good stuff. So that's what we're going to do today, is read this, and then next week we will begin with the actual book. From a very early period, church fathers identified the Apostle John as the author of this letter, although the matter became more debated in the 20th century. Internal evidence supports this position. The style of this letter closely resembles that of John's Gospel, especially when we allow for differences of genre, subject, and possibly a more specific audience for the letter. Individual ancient writers often varied their style far more than the differences between John's Gospel and 1st John. Disciples sometimes imitated their teachers' teachings, but imitating vocabulary and style was far more or less common. One normally imitated even vocabulary only if one was pretending to be the teacher. In such cases of pretense, however, the writer expressly claims, falsely, to be the teacher. By contrast, no such claim is offered here, since the original audience knew the author's identity. The genre is because most of 1st John, except for 2.12 to 14, reads more like a homily than a letter. It might be classified in later epistolary terms as a letter essay. Quick glance says the author is the Apostle John. Audience, believers in Western Asia Minor. The date it was written was between AD 85 and 95. The theme, John writes to assure believers of the certainty of their faith and to refute heretical doctrines teaching that Jesus was not fully human and fully divine. We're going to move into the background. The letter's situation is somewhat hard to reconstruct. Allusions to material in John's Gospel suggest that hearers of 1st John had also heard the Gospel, or at least the author's teachings provided in that Gospel. Because the audience of John's Gospel may include Jewish believers expelled from their synagogues, it is possible that 1st John at least partly addresses churches where some members have returned to the synagogue by denying Jesus' messiahship. This was only one of the problems John addressed in the churches of Asia Minor. However, it was relevant in Smyrna and Philadelphia, but in some locations the primary issue was comprised with idolatry advocated by false prophets, perhaps relevant in 1 John 4:1, 5:21, and one of the challenging forms of idolatry was the imperial cult. Another problem in some churches was that the church needed more love, possibly including love for one another, Revelations 2 and 4. Certainly, false apostles and teaching abounded. Any of these issues or combinations of these issues could lie partly in the background. One often proposed background for 1st John is the challenge of early Gnosticism. One group, Docetists, believed that Christ was divine but only seemed to become human. Another group, followers of one Cerinthus, believed that the Christ Spirit merely came on Jesus, but they denied that he was actually the one and only Christ. Some Gnostics believed that they were incapable of committing real sins, although their bodies could engage in behavior that non-Gnostic Christians considered sinful. Such Gnostic systems are not really attested until decades after 1 John. But it is possible that some thinkers were already moving in these directions. Whatever the specific background we reconstruct, one point is beyond dispute. The primary troublemakers are clearly cessationists, people who had been part of the Christian community John addressed, but who had rejected the teaching of that community. John advocates testing the Spirit by two main criteria: a moral, ethical test, keeping the commandments, especially love of the Christian community, and a faith test, the right view about Jesus. So that's a little bit of an overview of the book we're going to be getting into. Trust me, the wording will not be nearly as difficult as some of those with the different groups and types of Christians and that kind of thing in that day. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting into this book, and I hope you are too. I will see you very soon in the next one. Thank you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That'll really help the channel a lot. Thanks so much. Bye.